Imagine stepping into a house where time seems to have utterly collapsed, where the very air is thick with the scent of age and just untold stories,
Hmm.
and where the discovery of a death doesn't just end a life, but violently wrenches open this window into decades of family secrets. And, well, an almost feral way of living.
It's quite a picture.
It's a place the modern world really tried to forget, but it's a place that just refuses to be forgotten.
Yeah, it's an incredibly potent image, isn't it? The author Russell Banks, he uses it so masterfully.
Yeah.
It just immediately immerses you in this world that feels, I don't know, both deeply familiar and somehow utterly alien.
Absolutely. So today we're taking a deep dive into that world, specifically the intricate, multi-generational saga of the Proctor family.
Okay.
Our journey is guided by the, well, profoundly unsettling pages of Kings of the Earth, a novel. We're not just recounting events here, we're really analyzing this unique family dynamic, seeing it through the keen eyes of its own members and the few outsiders who dared to observe them closely.
Right. And our mission, I think, is to extract the most profound insights from all these different perspectives.
Yeah.
We're looking to uncover the surprising facts, the deeply human truths that shaped this really isolated world
Yeah.
and ultimately led to a tragic event,
Yeah.
one that truly challenges our understanding of justice, loyalty, and what the very word family can mean under these kind of extreme conditions.
Exactly. We want to understand not just what happened, but why it mattered.
Why it resonated so deeply and, why the author chose to tell this story.
Okay, so let's unpack this, starting right with the novel's opening scene. The story just plunges us into the suffocating reality of 1990.
Yeah, it's grim.
With the grim discovery of Vernon Proctor's body. The scene itself is basically a character, a visceral stage for the tragedy. A single, used room, thick with a smell, described with such raw detail.
Yeah.
Cow manure and dry rot and spoiled food, like tobacco and burnt rope and rat droppings, like old men and sickness and death. It's intense.
It really is. And right there, curled up on the floor, shaking all over, is Audie, Vernon's brother. Barely responsive.
It's just an immediate jarring jolt into their harsh existence.
And the author immediately establishes this almost primal connection the Proctors have to the earth and also to their own neglect. What's fascinating here is how quickly outsiders get entangled in this really insular world. You have Margaret Hatch, a watchful neighbor. She calls Donna the brother's sister because her husband, Preston, hasn't returned from checking on the Proctors.
Right.
Then state troopers arrive, including Captain Del Graham, and the room. It's so foul that one trooper actually uses Vicks Vapor Rub under his nose.
Wow.
Which, is usually reserved for much more decomposed bodies. This small detail, it just instantly highlights Vernon's lifelong effect in that department, you could say.
Right here.
And the sheer accumulated neglect that just permeates their home.
That detail about the Vicks Vapor Rub is profoundly unsettling, isn't it?
It really is.
It instantly establishes Vernon's difficult existence and just the overwhelming conditions surrounding him. And then, dramatically, Donna arrives.
Yep, this sister.
The black sheep sister who actually left, went to nursing school in Syracuse. She pulls up, finds Vernon's body being removed, and it's this stark, almost heartbreaking contrast between her chosen modern path and her brother's unchanging, hard way of living. Graham, looking around at the scene, the bare dirt and the sprays of tobacco juice soaking into it, he just remarks, "This is a hard way to live."
Yeah. The author uses Donna's return as this stark mirror, really reflecting the Proctor's isolation.
And that reflection immediately highlights the vast chasm between the Proctor brothers' insular world and, well, what we might call the outside.
Definitely. Her education, her profession.
Sure.
It's a direct counterpoint to their existence, which for them was simply how things had always been. Immutable.
Yeah.
Unyielding. The author is showing us right from the start this inherent tension between their traditional, isolated life and the modern world that's constantly kind of brushing against it. It's like a confrontation of two different realities.
So this grim discovery, it quickly leads to what looks like a resolution. Creed Proctor's confession.
Right. Seems straightforward at first.
Law enforcement, particularly Captain Del Graham, questions Creed. Initially, Creed says Vernon died from the cancer the family believed he had.
Which is what they all thought, yeah.
But the medical examiner's report just shatters this simple explanation. It reveals something chilling. Petechiae. Burst blood vessels on Vernon's cheeks, neck, eyeballs.
Oof.
For the authorities, this immediately suggests asphyxiation or strangulation.
And this is where the novel truly starts to unravel our assumptions about truth, about justice.
Right.
Creed's confession is absolutely central to this unraveling.
How so?
Well, he's taken to the barracks in Cassius, interviewed by Graham and another trooper, Burns. And what's profoundly unsettling is how Creed describes the experience. He says it was surprisingly pleasant.
Pleasant.
Almost like a vacation. He got hamburgers for supper.
A vacation, while being questioned about his brother's death.
Exactly. And he eventually signs this confession, stating he pinched Vernon's nose and mouth shut because he couldn't bear his snoring, the bedwetting, the, perceived suffering from cancer.
Okay.
But then, significantly, Creed later notes the difference between real things and things you talk about and things somebody puts on a paper.
Wow. That line, real things versus things on paper, that's powerful.
It really is. It forces us to confront the possibility that for someone like Creed, removed from that existence defined by cow manure and dry rot, just being treated with basic civility, even under duress, maybe that felt like a luxury.
It's chilling. Does the novel imply this was like psychological manipulation by the troopers? Or does it speak more to the profound deprivation of his everyday life?
The novel leaves it ambiguous, I think. It highlights not only his isolation, but perhaps over certain cognitive vulnerability. Did law enforcement exploit that? Maybe. Maybe not deliberately even. But the novel makes us question how much of Creed's testimony is a literal accounting and how much is shaped by his unique internal logic or maybe external pressures.
Right, and the confession also explicitly states that Audie never even knew a thing about it until the morning.
Crucial detail.
This is especially poignant given Audie's deep connection to Vernon and his sensory limitations. He's nearly blind. So one of the central figures is supposedly completely unaware.
And Audie's supposed ignorance, given his profound emotional and physical dependency on Vernon, that feels like a deliberate narrative choice by the author Banks to further complicate the official story. It asks us, the readers, to consider the reliability of this confession just as much as the characters within the story do.
Indeed. And Preston Hatch, the neighbor who initially called for help, he becomes this crucial voice of skepticism.
Yeah, he doesn't buy it.
Finds it almost impossible to believe his quiet neighbor, Creed, could have murdered his brother. He criticizes the lack of legal counsel for Creed, the small-town rumors. He even notes that taking the Proctor boys off the farm would basically be a death sentence in itself, maybe worse than jail for them.
That's a powerful point.
He's the one who calls a lawyer Mary Spinelli, and she shrewdly observes that Creed, being ignorant enough to refuse a lawyer, was therefore ignorant enough to require one.
Oh, that's sharp.
It just adds this huge, almost insurmountable layer of doubt to the entire legal process. It pushes us to question the very nature of justice in such a unique context.
Preston's deep distrust forces us to question the whole legal process, definitely. But maybe even more fundamentally, it compels us to look beyond the immediate events and try to understand the unique insular world of the Proctor brothers themselves.
Right.
The author uses Preston not just as an observer, but almost as a moral compass, highlighting how easily a system designed for a different world can misinterpret or maybe even exploit characters like Creed.
Yeah, and Mary Spinelli's observation points to that systemic failure, doesn't it? Failure to protect the most vulnerable within the justice system, especially when they're facing a narrative as compelling as a confession.
Exactly. So this unsettling ambiguity around Creed's confession, it immediately makes us look deeper.
Yeah.
Into the very heart of the Proctor world.
A world so distinct, it's almost a study in alien interdependence.
Yeah.
The three brothers, Vernon, Audie, and Creed, they shared the same bed for decades.
Decades. Think about that.
Donna, their sister, describes their group consciousness,
moving
like ghosts of drowned men or ants, particularly Vernon and Audie, who were always that way. It speaks volumes about a bond that just transcends typical family relationships, hints at a shared identity forged in hardship.
Absolutely. Their physical proximity, sharing the same bed, it's such a powerful metaphor for their intertwined destinies.
Yeah.
And it really challenges any notion of individual autonomy within that household.
Right.
The novel suggests this group consciousness isn't just habit, it's a survival mechanism. A shared identity so fused that an act against one could be perceived, maybe by Creed, as an act for the suffering collective.
Like a mercy killing, but for the group's suffering.
Possibly. It forces us to question if murder in this context even carries the same moral weight as it would in our world, a world of distinct, independent selves. The author uses this interdependence to ask if personal responsibility can even exist when identities are so profoundly merged.
Then there's Audie. He stands out, doesn't he? The sensitive soul of this trio.
Very much so.
Near blind, those intensely blue eyes, often prone to shaking. It makes his connection to the tactile world even more crucial.
Hmm.
He finds comfort in carving wooden figures, though his eyesight limits his skill, leaving the rest could be anything, a really poignant detail.
Hmm.
It speaks to his inner world and his external limitations.
Yeah, the carvings are a brilliant literary device. They represent his attempts to bring some kind of order, some beauty to a chaotic world, even if they're imperfectly formed.
Right.
And his intensely blue eyes, even though they don't see well, they suggest a deeper, maybe more profound way of seeing the world, an almost spiritual connection to the details around him.
Interesting.
Banks uses Odyssey to explore how profound limitations can actually lead to heightened sensitivity, making his reaction to Vernon's death not just grief, but this visceral tearing of a fundamental bond. His presence constantly reminds us of the profound, almost symbiotic nature of their relationship.
And then there's Vernon. Despite his own physical issues, that lifelong limp from a harrowing accident, his perceived cancer, the chronic snoring, he often took the lead on the farm after their father died.
He was the patriarch, in his way.
Yeah,
He's
fierce loyalty, too, like when he somehow managed to get that wood lathe for Audie.
That's a great detail.
A real act of profound care for his brother's quiet pursuit. He even tried to help his mother, Ruth, quit smoking. Yet he was also fiercely independent, resisting modern medicine. That stubborn streak profoundly defines him. He's the anchor, the problematic patriarch, holding on to the old ways at all costs.
Vernon is a fascinating paradox, isn't he? He embodies both that unwavering loyalty and the immovable resistance that characterizes the whole Proctor family.
Yeah.
His refusal of modern medicine isn't just stubbornness. It's a testament to a deep-seated distrust of outside intervention, a profound self-reliance, even when it's clearly detrimental.
Right.
And that wood lathe anecdote, it beautifully illustrates his kind of leadership. It wasn't about power, really, but about practical care for his kin, reflecting a different kind of authority rooted in shared experience, understanding each other's needs. The author uses Vernon to personify the enduring, yet ultimately self-destructive nature of their isolated existence.
And Creed. The one who confessed, he's painted as the quiet innovator.
Yeah, which is maybe surprising at first glance.
Returned from the Korean War a changed man, learned to like whiskey, got plans for a still from a fellow soldier in Camp Drum.
From the outside world, interestingly.
Right. He built that still deep in the woods, used it for moonshine, but later for cultivating marijuana. This seemingly quiet man held these surprising depths, these capacities, demonstrated a different kind of independence and resourcefulness that totally belies the simple image others might have had of him.
Absolutely. Creed's post-war evolution is crucial. The still isn't just about income. It's a symbol of his ingenuity, his adaptation, however, illicit to a changing world, but still within the confines of the farm.
Yeah.
The fact he learned this from a soldier, someone from outside their isolated world, suggests this subtle, almost subterranean connection to larger societal currents, even for them.
That's interesting.
Banks uses Creed to show us that even in profound isolation, people are complex, capable of deep love, dark secrets, resourceful in ways we might not expect. His quiet nature and his illicit enterprises just deepen the mystery around his confession. It begs us to look past the surface.
Great, let's zoom out a bit then. Look at the outsiders and the next generation, because they really highlight the profound isolation of the Proctor brothers and also the persistent pull of that farm. Donna, the youngest only daughter, she's the definitive black sheep who left. Escaped the farm life, became a nurse in Syracuse. Such a stark contrast to her brother's unchanging existence.
Totally different world.
But she consistently tried to help her family, took her ailing mother to the hospital, tried to get Vernon medical care even though he resisted. Her perspective is just crucial for understanding what was lost and maybe what was gained by leaving, and the burden of trying to bridge these two incompatible worlds.
Yeah, and what's fascinating is how these roles, this tension between leaving and staying, seem to be inherited or revisited across generations.
How so?
Well, Preston Hatch, the observant neighbor we mentioned, he serves as this crucial bridge and an invaluable narrative voice for the reader.
Okay.
He's from a slightly more civilized background, owned a lumberyard, helped the Proctors with practical stuff like installing heating vents, building a new privy in the barn.
Right, the practical neighbor.
He provides this contrasting perspective on their rough-hewn lives, and he notes their profound resistance to change. He says, I don't think they even knew the world had changed.
Wow.
The author positions Preston as this empathetic outsider who genuinely tries to understand. He offers a lens through which you, the reader, can grapple with the Proctor's unique logic, their way of being.
And the black sheep motif, you said it continues.
It does, yeah, with Donna's son Tom Poole,
Yeah.
but with a modern, maybe darker twist.
Okay.
He starts cultivating marijuana on the farm, uses Creed's Old still as a cover, engages in illicit trade with a Canadian guy named Henri.
So the next generation finds a new illicit use for the farm's isolation.
Exactly. And his father, Dilton, Donna's husband, a salesman from an onion farm background, he tries to mentor Tom in this business, sees it as an opportunity.
Opportunity in drug dealing.
Yeah. Tom's experiences reflect a different kind of isolation, a different pursuit of profit, even if illegal. It shows how the farm, though seemingly frozen in time, continues to be this nexus for both traditional and new forms of hardship, and how the drive for survival manifests differently in different generations.
It really raises questions about cycles of behavior, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And the persistence of certain patterns despite societal shifts.
Definitely. Tom's story underlines how the farm, for all its isolation, isn't immune to external forces, especially the economic pressures and illicit markets of the modern world.
Right.
And Dilton's mentoring, it offers this really cynical take on entrepreneurship, suggesting that for some, the desire for profit just overrides legality or morality. Banks uses this generational echo to show that while the methods of coping and surviving might evolve, the underlying struggle against poverty and that sense of being outside remains a constant for this family line.
The Proctor family story is it's this tapestry woven with threads of relentless hardship and somehow profound humanity. Their lives were utterly defined by unyielding work, pervasive poverty, and an isolation so complete it feels almost genetic sometimes.
Yeah.
You see it early on in that really gripping scene, Lester's ice fishing incident with young Vernon and Odyssey back in 1932, where whiskey offered this temporary but potent relief from the bone-numbing cold, kind of foreshadows future dependencies.
Right. That anecdote is vital. The ice fishing incident isn't just a story. It's almost an origin point for their understanding of suffering and the fleeting comfort of escape.
And then there's Ruth, the mother. Her lingering illness, her stubborn refusal to sign a will.
Another powerful symbol.
Yeah, their resistance to external conventions, any outside authority trying to impose order. And it was a source of constant low-grade tension.
Ruth's refusal to sign a will, against all practical advice, it demonstrates that deep-seated aversion to any legal entanglement, any external authority trying to shape their lives.
Even their infamous horsehair cigarette prank on Margaret Hatch, though undeniably cruel.
Oh yeah, that was rough.
It underscores their almost animal quality, that deep-seated distrust of outsiders.
That prank, while shocking, serves a complex narrative purpose, I think. It positions the Proctors as both victims of their circumstances and perpetrators of their own brand of primal, almost savage defense against anything threatening their perceived self-sufficiency. It's the author showing us that their feral way of life isn't merely passive, it's actively maintained.
And speaking of maintenance, the farm itself, that homegrown desolation, it remains largely untouched by time.
It really does.
The old-school bus full of turkeys, the perpetually messy yard, the creatures, those whimsical wind-powered whirligigs Oddie loved to watch.
Yeah, the whirligigs.
They all paint this vivid picture of a world forgotten by, or maybe deliberately resistant to, progress.
That unchanging landscape is such a powerful character in itself. It's a testament to their inertia, sure, but maybe also a source of comfort for someone like Oddie. Those whirligigs provided a small, consistent movement in an otherwise static world.
That's a good point. So if we connect all this back to Vernon's death and Creed's confession, the narrative masterfully leaves us with these enduring, unsettling questions.
Absolutely.
Was Creed's confession a true account, an act of mercy, or just a desperate distortion of events under profound duress?
We just don't know for sure.
The lawyer Ben Wilson, who gets involved later, he questions the timing of the confession and, crucially, the jury's patience for complex facts. He highlights that people like to believe that the truth is simple.
That's insightful. And often true, unfortunately.
And then the author adds even more layers of complexity. The presence of semen found on Vernon's clothing, the ongoing marijuana operation.
Right, things that complicate the simple narrative.
And Del Graham, the lead investigator, ultimately decides to downplay these details, to avoid confusing what he calls the larger issue of the murder.
And that strategic downplaying by Graham is maybe the most damning indictment of the justice system presented in the novel.
How so?
It strongly suggests a deliberate simplification of a messy, uncomfortable truth just for the sake of conviction. for the sake of an easy narrative that the jury, and perhaps society itself, is more willing to accept. The novel forces us to confront that sometimes what gets put on paper isn't the whole truth at all, but rather a manufactured, convenient truth.
A truth that fits.
Exactly. The complexities of their lives, the potential sexual dynamics, the illicit enterprises they're deemed too distracting, too inconvenient for the pursuit of a simple justice. Banks is critically examining how truth is constructed and how easily it can be sacrificed for expediency.
And that's where we leave our deep dive today into the Proctor family. We've explored this powerful, often brutal portrait of rural American life, profound isolation, and the incredibly complex bonds that tie people together. We've seen how external events like wars, changing societal norms, just brushed against a family largely immune to them, and how deeply personal tragedies intertwine with larger, often unspoken forces.
Yeah, Vernon's death, Creed's unsettling confession, Audie's quiet suffering, and his unique way of seeing the world, Donna's escape, Tom's modern-day illicit enterprise. All these threads weave into a narrative that really asks us to consider the very nature of truth itself.
Right.
The limits of human understanding and the different, often desperate ways people survive. Is there a singular objective truth to what happened in that farmhouse? Or only interpretations shaped by loyalty, by fear, and by a deeply ingrained, almost feral love?
This story, as told in Kings of the Earth, it definitely challenges us to reflect on the stories we tell ourselves, about family, about justice, about what it truly means to be well-informed.
Absolutely.
As Weston Hatch aptly observed, unless you understand how another person's mind works, you can't necessarily make sense of the evidence in front of you. This novel is such a powerful reminder of that.
It really is.
So what stories do you encounter in your own life where understanding another's perspective completely changes your perception of the evidence, or maybe even the truth itself? Something to think about.